Hello to you all my internet friends out there. I'm Dakian. This is the 26th of August 2019. It's a Monday, and I'm here to ramble. Starting out with these three finished minis. These are the minis from Shield Wolf Miniatures that I painted mostly up at the game store last Monday. I've done them with snowy bases because they sort of belong to an army that is kind of based in the snowy north. A couple of them don't seem dressed for it. This lady doesn't really seem dressed for the winter, but what you gonna do? I debated with myself how to paint this little spell effect coming out of her hand. If I wanted to do it like fire, like light to dark, like darkest tips, like the flame in this one. But I reached the conclusion, I did it sort of on the sort of green flames coming in between the skull and the hand. I did that way, but the skull itself I painted the traditional way with normal highlights. Maybe it looks odd. I don't know. It looked really weird the other way. That's all I can say. Now this one is more has a big fur cloak, and she's playing with fire. So maybe she's set for wintry climes. And here is the ranger with the odd crossbow. See how she came out. I've had to go over it again. I had some issues with the varnishing the day I did these. My Army Painter Rattle Can matte varnish for some reason came out extremely matte, pretty much like a dusty effect, and it looked really odd, especially on the metal. So I've gone over those parts again with a satin varnish, a brush on. And hopefully that's fixed it a little bit, so there's at least a little bit of sheen to them. Not sure how it'll come across on camera. I'm not sure what it was, if it's just a bad can, or if the climate that day wasn't very good, or if I was careless and put on too thick a coat. You know, it's finicky, rattle cans. But oh well. It's usually fixable. So these are let's see, these are all resin minis, and they were a bit tricky. I had some problems with this hand with the crossbow, as you've seen before, but it all worked out eventually. Now let's move on to all the Reaper Bones stuff. And here's the collection of another 8 adventurers from the Bones 4 Kickstarter core set. Another third of the adventurers. These are some semi-heavy armored. Well, a couple are actually in full plate. Not as massive plate as the bunch I painted last week. A little bit slimmer. But yeah, and no is also fully armored. Then we have some semi-armored stuff, like this dwarf, and this maybe elf or half elf. She has pointy ears. She's got some leather armor with some bits of metal, a barbarian of some sort, I think. And speaking of barbarians, we have this Conan-esque looking dude. His furs. Then we have an elf 2-sword ranger of some sort. The varnish is a little bit glossy still on this one. Maybe I'll go in with some matte brush on varnish and fix this guy up. And finally we have a dragonborn, who is I went for red scales because that's one of the more interesting colors to have on a draconic figure. And I felt it was a nice contrast with the metal, and I put some blue clothing on him, again, just for contrast. Now,
I spent different amounts of time on these. Models like this one, I quite enjoyed working on, because the sculpt transferred very well in the casting with the bones material. Others, like for instance this elf, in the casting of it, in this material, lots of the detail is lost, and it's just very fuzzy and uninteresting. And you might note that the sheaf of arrows in his quiver there, I don't think I've even painted them. That's just remnants of paint that's slopped over from other stuff. But it's unimportant. It's such a little detail, and it's just a lump of fuzzy plastic. Nobody's ever going to look at it anyway. So yeah, varying degrees of care put into these, according to how much the sculpts, the molds deserved. Anyway, so that's 8 plus the previous 3, so 11 models done this week. Still reasonably good tempo for a week where I was also working full time. Let's see what's upcoming.
So I'm sad to report that progress on this model has been minimal. If you remember last week, the only thing that's happened is I base coated the skin. I base coated it in dark elf skin from Reaper, typically, and haven't gotten around to highlighting it yet. I have watched the DVD where Ricky does highlight it, and she has an interesting technique which I would not have thought of, namely that she highlights by adding to the dark elf skin portions of maggot white, which is a white with some green in it. That would not have occurred to me if I hadn't watched the DVD. So you learned something new. That's good. And she says the reason she doesn't add pure white because pure white tends to be chalky and tends to chalk up. And you know, she has a point. I have noticed that when adding pure white to other paints, and in order to lighten them, it sometimes, you know, behaves weirdly, and in a way I don't like. So I have tended to use warm whites, like off whites and bone whites and the like, you know, very pale beiges to add to skin colors to highlight them instead of pure whites. This is a very cold white, so I'm curious to see what the effect will be. She does use another purple later on to shade and to sort of warm it up with a kind of a glaze. I don't have the Reaper paint she's using, but I think Hexed Lichen here from Leo Game Color is a reasonable match for that, so that's what I'm going to try out. And by next week, let's hope at least the skin is done, and maybe the face as well, you know, the eyes and lips and the like. I don't know, do I want to paint in white eyebrows maybe, or will that look cartoony? We'll see how I handle it. And yeah. And here we can see some of the newly started minis. This one is the Bones Black mini, Anthanel or something I think she's called. You can see that I've just about finished the face and done a lot of work on the hair. I think the hair needs another highlight or so, but otherwise I got started on her. I also got started a little bit on these other Reaper minis, these 3 metal Reaper, well, they're all metal otherwise. They've got some pre-shading done on them and undercoat on the basis. These 3 are the ones I'm going to bring to the game store tonight, and they're supposed to stand in for characters in a specific scenario that doesn't have exact matches of figures. Let me show you. This guy is supposed to be this character. So he's got a bigger staff than the cane, but otherwise, and it's more than a frock coat. It's really
much longer, but I'll try to use a similar color scheme to him. And this lady, well, the original idea for this one is, well, it's just a headshot and boobs. So all I know is she has very pale skin, red hair, and essentially a white dress, maybe some blue-gray shadows, so a cold white. And finally, this necromancer is a stand-in for, let's see if I find the picture. Oh, this dude. So I'm not sure I can pull off painting, having the face paint thing across, like a raccoon mask across his eyes, or is that supposed to be paint, or is it maybe just a mask? Maybe. Don't know if I can manage that. I'll make an attempt. Otherwise, we have the bat. Oh, this is just the base. Here's the bat. I decided to paint it off the stand, at least paint the underside of it before attaching it to the flight stand. I think that's a good idea. Yeah. And then there's all these the mites. These are really small. I mean, take one of these guys next to a human-sized mini. You'll see that it's smaller than a goblin or a kobold even. It's really, really tiny. And they're on 20mm bases. And the dirt, the texturing of the base is kind of iffy here. It doesn't, just goes up to the edge of the cast base. And I haven't really covered it well. Not a good transition, but I'll put some static grass on around here to disguise it afterwards. And the reason this happens is that I use that Vallejo Dark Earth product, which is an acrylic paste, and you slather it on, and then it shrinks a little bit when it dries. So it doesn't always cover as much as you thought. This one is a little bit better. You can sort of see the tab here, but again, some paint and some static grass will serve to disguise all of this, I hope. Okay, so in all seriousness, I really do need to cut down a little bit on how many new projects I start, because as I've warned several times already, I've got more work to do now that the autumn has started. So for next week, what am I going to prep? Well, we have the rest of these adventurers from the Bones 4 Kickstarter core set. Now, these are mostly the cloth wearers that are left. We have, well, this one is kind of leather wearer, but there's a lot of wizards in robes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 2 females in, well, dresses. Oh, this is the yeah, female vampire, I think, in bones form. I have this in metal. I haven't painted it, but I've got the model somewhere. So there's 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 5, 6, 7, yeah, 8 models. I really think that's enough, and I will actually use some of these for my game store painting projects instead of doing something else for that. Again, just because I think I need to be conservative. I mean, if I should get a painting spurt on and finish a lot of stuff quickly, I can always add more stuff, but because I have a huge backlog. But I think this will do. So now that I've started those adventures, what is actually left in this Bones 4 core set? Well, not a lot, and nothing I'm going to paint right away. See, this first pack here is the Undead collection. Undead plus Graveyard bits. And I'm going to save this for October. This is going to be my first sort of Halloween-themed project. I've earmarked it for that. Then there is the dragon. I think they call him Gauth. And I'm putting this one off indefinitely because I have no need for a new dragon in my gaming right now. So, he'll be on tap for when I need it. And finally, it's all these bits. These sort of pillar toppers. There's 1, 2, 3, 5 packs of different looks. And I have no idea what to do with these. I don't have any pillars that need these on top of them at the moment. So, yeah, these are going into storage for a rainy day or whenever I can figure out what to do with them. So, next time I add something from Bones 4, it will not be the core set, it will be either an add-on or one of the other expansion sets. I've already dipped into the add-ons a bit, but I still have more to go. And also, I got practically all of the expansions except for the sci-fi one. So, yeah, lots to do. So I said those 8 Bones minis was all I was going to paint. Okay, maybe I spoke too soon. Because I got a package in the mail, I placed a small order from Heresy Miniatures because he put out one of those occasional calls for help, needing money, so asking people to order stuff and giving a discount. So I couldn't help myself. I picked up a few minis, and it's not a lot, it's 3 models. First, there's a sort of man-bat. I think it's supposed to be a vampire in a kind of werebat form. But you can look at it as just a kind of a werebat or something similar. I have another ogre. Painted a couple of Heresy's ogres before, and I've got some more in store. This one is called the Ogre Thug, I think, because he's got, I don't know. He's got an axe, and he's making some sort of gesture with one finger with his hand. It's his forefinger, it's not the middle finger, so I'm not sure what it means. And finally, there's a Demon Lord. Big kit. Let's have a look here. We have a rather sizable body, and a couple of wings, and a tail, and then we have, a head. We have a lot of different arms. Is this an arm? Okay, this is an arm without a hand, so you add a hand to it. This is an arm with a hand, another arm with a hand, and a huge sword. I've got to use this one. A hand without an arm, but some sort of axe thing. Another arm with a hand. Another similar sword, this is not the same. It's the other hand, so this is the right hand and the left hand. And the left arm is separate. And here's a sort of cleaver thing, and here's an axe, and here's just a clenched fist. So it comes with a ton of options for the arms, that is for the weaponry. That's cool. I have no idea what I'm going to do with it, but I'll figure something out. So these three models I will add to the queue. So it's going to be 11 that I start, not 8. Oh well. But that was it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Click like if you did, subscribe, comment. Be back next week, approximately the same time, same weekday, same channel, same Doc Eon. But for now, I'm signing off.